And we are live. Man, another heartbreaking, frustrating game. I've got my man Zarik Turner joining me in just a moment to talk through this, at least at the start. But before we get into the game, if you want to come up and talk about today's game or anything Pistons, please send me a DM. I've got, like I said, Zarik coming up. Then I have Cody, I'm pretty sure, is going to join. But yeah, the floor is yours if you want to come up and chat through the game. There's so much to talk about in this game. I thought we were going to be discussing, at least a double digit loss or just another kind of really disappointing loss. But ultimately, it is very disappointing. But the fact that went to overtime, I'm a bit all over the place with my assessment of this game. Um, but yeah, Detroit lose in overtime to the Hornets, 121 to 123. And, it was kind of symbolic of the game, I thought. It was a 1 point game. I think with like a minute to play, Charlotte had the ball, one on the shot clock. And Brandon Miller goes over a screen and nails a 3 point shot to put the Hornets up by 4 and kind of put the nail in the coffin. And the key thing there was Ivy just got completely caught on the screen, just gave Miller way too much space. And it was still a tough three for Miller to hit. Like he's kind of on the move, but, Ivy getting caught on that screen earlier and just not being able to provide a proper contest. It was kind of symbolic of why the Pistons lost this game. Just poor 3 point defense everywhere. Last time I spoke a lot, well, Cody and I spoke a lot about Jalen Duren's struggles against Vucevic, and JD had his struggles tonight, but Stu had his struggles on the glass. The 3 point defense from all the Pistons perimeter players was quite frankly lazy for the first 3 quarters and through patches in the fourth quarter and overtime. But just those first 3 quarters, I was not feeling very good about this team. Just that the first 3 quarters of that game just reminded me so much of last season. Uh, there's some positives I will get to, but just like, you know, I felt like Cade was trying to do too much, not trusting his teammates, which led to some turnovers, which led to him taking a lot of forced shots. But also Jaden Ivey, honestly, I think Jaden Ivey and Duren didn't score a bucket between them until the end of the fourth, I want to say. So your two lottery picks from 2 years ago, not not firing a punch, just it's going to be hard to win when they're doing that on offense and then struggling defensively. But yeah, just overall, the entire defensive effort for the starters, particularly, I thought it would just wasn't there. A team that had 2 days rest to come out like that, that third quarter, because at the end of the first and second, they made these kind of runs, the Pistons, after not looking great, but they got it back, I think, to 6 points at the end of the first. And then I think it was either 6 or 4 points at the half. So they were able to rally it back. And it was kind of like, okay, they don't really deserve to be in this game, but they're still right in it. And then that third quarter, the Hornets the Pistons were turning it over. The 3 point defense was horrible. Closeouts by everyone were poor. Some of like Ivy and Malik Beasley in particular, just I don't know. I don't want to say it's their effort, but their technique in getting around screens just is like they are so easy to get caught on screens. They don't get skinny. They just kind of get stuck on the screen and try and get around it. And it's just, um, yeah, it was like really disappointing, honestly. I would say for the first 6 players in the rotation, maybe 7. I'll include Stu in there in the first 3 quarters. So he had some really bad turnovers. Like it was just lots of, yeah, just lots of a bit of lackadaisical basketball, but just questionable decision makings. Over 20 turnovers tonight. I know they played overtime, but they were close to 20 at the end of the fourth. Way too many. Um, yeah, just I think overall, like real disappointing effort from your top 7 guys who you need to play a whole lot better. And like Cade had moments. I think he finished with 27 points, 10 assists. But there was also just some moments with some really bad turnovers. Like I posted one on Twitter that just, ultimately they came back. So it's just this weird thing because it's like they literally I haven't even spoken about Malik Beasley somehow missing the easiest shot he's ever gonna get at the rim. Um to win the game. Like they actually could have won this game. So this is why I'm all over the place because the first 3 quarters were so disappointing from your bet like from your like I said, top 7 rotation players. But they find themselves basically like they should have won. Like honestly, Beasley should have had that putback. It should have been the absolute reverse of the last game in Charlotte where the Pistons get their revenge, you know, because I felt like in the first Charlotte Pistons game, the Pistons I don't want to say they were a better team, but like they they, they probably should have won that one in Charlotte. And then tonight they don't really deserve to win. They get the chance. Beasley has the shot, literally like a foot from the rim and can't make it. But don't worry, I can see some comments. I'm going to get to Tobias. I'll get to some positives, but I'm going to bring up my man Zarik. What's going on, brother?
What's up, man? How are you?
I'm really happy to have you on, man. I'm really happy to have you on. First time on the show. First time us getting to have a chat about Pistons hoops in person. So, first of all, I'm very happy to have you on the show. Um, I've kind of just been talking a little bit about the game, but I'm going to toss it to you, man. How are you feeling? Main takeaways.
Well, first off, good to finally talk. Yes, I'm excited to be here, and yeah, that was a game. I I think he mentioned something where he said Detroit really didn't deserve to win this one, and it really did feel that way. Um, like coming into the fourth quarter, it was like there you could tell that there was like a sliver of momentum, and their second unit really took advantage of that. But Cade heroics aside, and he even had a pretty rough game. They really should not have found themselves in a position to win it. At the end of the fourth, that was, I feel like, pure luck. And I was texting with you about it. I was like, this team has suffered so much bad luck in the last few years. I was like, the lucky scenarios they find themselves in, it feels like they're getting the karma from all the years of bad luck, but it just doesn't feel earned.
Literally, man. No, I feel you, and like I couldn't agree more. Like I'm just having a real hard time with this game because the first 3 quarters, um, I just felt like that was one of the worst showings I've seen just from like their top 7 players. Like I know Cade was solid, but I just felt like at times he was forcing it a little bit. Um, Ivan Duran just didn't do much. I thought even like Stu just had some really bad turnovers. Like it was just like from their top 7 guys, they just didn't really. They just all kind of struggled. But then, like you said, they come all the way back, and honestly, like Beasley should have hit that shot. Like I'm not gonna like go crazy about it because I think he's been so good this season and stuff happens. But it's like they actually genuinely should have won that. It's a weird game to talk about.
It's this weird thing though, like at first, like with the first Hornets game and like the Houston game, the Indiana game, like these are all games where you're like, oh, they should have won, or what's a game I'm forgetting? There's another one here,
Maybe like Boston.
Milwaukee.
Yeah, definitely the Bucks. Yeah,
Yeah, that one, like, oh, they should have won. I'm at this point now where I'm like, I think maybe these are games they deserve to lose.
yeah,
And I feel that way because when you keep getting opportunity after opportunity, they're like, oh, it's so often you miss like a free throw to seal the game, either the Tobias one or the Ron Holland one. It's like, oh, you only get so many opportunities. Like, it's only so often that you like blow chances to win games, but it really feels like a theme now rather than
yeah,
just a like one time occurrence. So it almost feels like when they lose in these miraculous fashions that it's almost like to be expected, which is disappointing because I think this team on paper is talented enough to be better than what their record is, and all things considered the record really isn't bad, right? And like it's better than most people were expecting at this point in
yeah.
the season, but it should be a lot better. I mean, just a couple nights ago, the Pistons had an opportunity to be, at 500, and now they're slipping down to 3 games below 500. And it feels like it's just like a whirlwind happened of momentum where they find themselves now on the downside, and it's unfortunate because I really feel like this upcoming stretch of games is going to be difficult for them. They have a West Coast trip not too long from
Yeah.
now, and they also like these 3 games where it was Toronto, Chicago, and Charlotte. Like,
Yeah.
man, those are games like you got you got to win, right? Like at least go 2-1 in because you're not going to get many opportunities like that, and they find themselves now hoping to go 1-2, and that's just disappointing.
Yeah, that's the thing, man. Like, I couldn't agree more. Like, I really fully believe they would get one of the Bulls or Hornets games. I thought tonight they would definitely win. The Bulls game was a back to back, so I was like, I still think they can win that. We saw what happened there, but now you play the Magic on, I think it's Saturday for you guys, which in Orlando, which is just going to be super tough. So it's kind of like, then they do play Toronto again, but like not to get too ahead. But I feel you, like it's just like with that West Coast trip coming up. I think it's in December, which, like you said, is not long away at all. It's like I know, like it's a weird thing because they are kind of tracking ahead of where at least I thought they would be, but and I'm very aware that like as I'm like my expectations have changed dramatically in the past like 3 weeks. So I'm constantly trying to figure out am I just shifting now the goalpost too far ahead of like what I should expect? But like you said, like this trend of just losing games now, like they kind of deserve it. It's not like the cute, like, oh, they were in it, they should have won. Like not even morale victory, but like it's just like, no, they kind of flat out just lost that tonight and those other close games. Um, yeah,
Yeah, and it's like it's a thing of I think if they were at where they're at right now, when where they're losing these games in these insane fashions, and this was Cade's like first or second year in the league, this would be fine, right? Like I don't think as many people would be as up in arms. But when looking at like the fan base's reaction to things like this, it feels like it's hard for me to like call people dramatic or saying like a goalpost have moved too much or anything
yeah,
like that because this team, like all things considered, when we talk about expectations, when you drafted Cade, I think by like 2024, 2025, most people expected this team to be like legitimately a playoff team
yeah.
by now. And like last season couldn't have been any farther from that. So I feel like I was thinking about this the other day. It feels to me like this season is like the averaging out of the last few seasons where
Yeah,
like they should have been around this for a while now, but they just haven't been. So now they're kind of finding themselves in this like scrappy young team identity, and that's fine and that's good, but you have to kind of be able to win games. And that's one thing that they're really going to have to learn. And I feel like this is a team that might be one to watch like second half of the season if they really, start to hit their groove or, if they make any personnel changes, if things don't change, like especially, like when it comes to how they get beat on the boards, like
yeah,
consistently, like this today, when you're watching, the Hornets as a team just out hustle the Detroit Pistons on the boards, like you got to wonder like what happened, right? Like
yeah.
how did we get here? So it was just it's head scratching, but at the same time, it makes sense. I feel like this team, when we talk about expectations and you look at the Eastern Conference, you have to throw out the last few years and you just kind of have to take things for what they are right now. And
Yeah,
what they are right now is a team that should be 500 or over, just
yeah,
flat out. And the fact that they're not is bad. It's not good. Because these are games that they should win. And I know it's early in the season, but every single game counts.
absolutely. And I just wanted to correct myself. I said the top 7 players were all not great. Tobias Harris was actually really good tonight. So I want to, I just want to take it to a bit of a positive first and just talk about Tobias because I actually thought he had 26. I thought, but he actually hit like key shots. I thought in that fourth quarter. So I think on these live streams, we've been, I think we've just been honest with how he's been, and it hasn't been great. So, thoughts on his game? Because I actually thought he was probably the Pistons' best offensive player.
Yeah, I thought he had his best night as a Piston thus far,
Maybe that was
right?
a
It's
reach
like,
from me. Sorry.
yeah, if you don't include that like Phoenix preseason game,
Yeah.
this was his best one of the season thus far, and they really needed this type of production from him like a while ago. This has to be more consistent from Tobias, like just flat out. I think the leadership he provides is definitely something that's hard to say that's like tangible. But it's overall like a culture change, and like again, this team is better than what most people expected them to be, all things considered, and that's the really like due to culture, and that's JB, that's the staff he's put together, that's like getting veterans like Tobias, like Malik Beasley, like Tim Hardaway Jr., who buy into this team, but all that said, Tobias has yet to really be that viable second option that he was expected to be. Where at like for most of the beginning of the season, Ivy kind of came into that role, but fallen a little bit behind lately. So it's good to see Tobias put up 26 tonight. I think going forward, especially if Cade misses any time, they're really going to need this from him moving forward.
Yeah, well, I think you bring up a good point there. So I think I mentioned it before you jumped on, but Cade, for those that might not have been watching, Cade had like a pretty big fall at the end of the fourth on his tailbone, took the 2 free throws, but then was ruled out. It said on the injury report that it's a hip, but yeah, I hope he's not out for too long.
I okay, I don't want to sound like a Debbie Downer. I don't want to sound like,
Yeah,
negative or anything, but I did see that fall, and it really reminded me of like that Killian game against the Bucks his
yeah,
rookie year, where he took the fall, and I forgot what the injury was specifically, but it was a hip injury
yeah,
that took him out for a lot of that season. It did remind me a little bit of that. Hopefully, it's just something minor, because he was able to come back and hit the free throws and finish out the fourth quarter before not playing overtime. So it seems like something that could be minor and at best be like a day-to-day thing. I hope, because if the Pistons lose Cade for a significant amount of time, we're going right back to tankathon, right? Like that's where most Pistons fans are going to spend most of their time. But also, before we go into that, I also wanted to say, like, I know you mentioned Stu. I actually thought he had a pretty good game overall, especially because right now he has to carry such a load on both ends of the court as like pretty much their main big. He
yeah,
doesn't start, but like he plays starter minutes, and he plays a whole lot of minutes. I thought uh Duran getting time at the end of the fourth, like they eventually switched him out, but
yeah.
I thought that was a little bit confusing because
Yeah.
I would have kept Stewart in for those minutes. And I think his presence is something that, you talk about Cade, like I think it's second to Cade when it comes to like irreplaceable on this team. Like he provides so much on both ends that, like, even though yeah he did have a couple of really bad turnovers, somehow they're still managed to come back after those. He was still able to like provide on both ends, and I thought this was honestly a pretty good game from him. And I thought the technical in the first quarter, it was the first quarter or second quarter, first
Yeah,
half,
that was yeah.
with Musa Diabate, I thought that was a little weak. He gets such
I
a
didn't think
strange
I
whistle.
yeah, I didn't think Stu did anything in that, like, honestly, but,
Yeah, they were just
eh,
grappling for position, and it turned into attack. It was just weird.
I thought Stu made some really big plays, like, he had a really good steal, I think, which then I think was turned straight over by Wendell Moore on the other end, but, no, I thought he made some really good plays. I just saw him, like, I'm not used to watching him, like, um, is it how do you say his name? Abate?
Musa Diabate?
Yeah, Diabate,
Yeah,
sorry.
yeah.
He's an insane rebounder, like, wow. But, like, I just saw him, like, outwork Stu a couple of times, and, like, I thought Stu was solid. I think I'm just so used to
Yeah,
him being, like, I don't know, almost can't
dominant on the
hold
boards.
him in a way, yeah, like,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
just those 2 passes, but they came back, like, and it was mainly the first 3 quarters. I just thought they were all out of whack, but I thought Stu yeah, I messaged, so Cody's gonna join us next, I think, but as soon as JB I think there was, like, 3 minutes to go, and he took out Stu and put Duran in, and I was like, message Cody, I'm like, "Is that weird?" Like, And then you picked up on it as well. I was surprised by that, but then he came back in. I guess I want to ask you. This is a more general question, but for this game as well.
Yeah.
What are your overall thoughts on the Stu and Duran kind of thing? Because I feel like it's been a massive topic of discussion. I don't know now if I'm being too harsh on Duran, but I thought tonight he wasn't the problem. But like, it's just there's still things. What are your thoughts overall on it?
I I have like I have mixed opinions on it because I think I feel like Stewart has earned that starting spot. I understand why they bring Duran to start the game, but I feel like Stewart is your starting center at this point. He plays starting center minutes regardless, but I feel like him getting those starter minutes while being a starter makes the most sense. So you're not having a game where Brooke Lopez is starting out killing you from deep, right? Like I just or Nikola Vucevic the other night. Like it's just a thing where Duran's defense is such a liability at this point. Like there was a point in this game where Grant Williams got him to bite on a on a hezzy, and I was like, oh man, like of all the players, you can't bite on like Grant Williams like 3-point pump fake. Like that's not something you can do. I am a very big fan of Jalen Duran's upside. However, his impact on the court, I think last year maybe it was just because of how bad the team was as a whole that like regardless of the defensive faults, it still felt like when he was on the court you could feel his presence. This season when he's on the court, it doesn't really feel like he's there, you know, like it doesn't feel
Yeah,
like he really has much of an impact one way or another. And I know the box score sometimes disagrees with that, but watching the game, it really feels as if Jalen Duren doesn't have the impact that he really should, especially now coming into year 3 where you're going to have to make a decision on contracts moving forward. Like if you want to talk into extensions this summer, you know, that's still up in the air, but I think it comes at a bad time for Jalen Duren. And I think also, yes, by comparison, Stewart looks better, but I just think Stewart has been really good. I don't know where they are defensively now, but the fact that they were ranked 7th
yeah,
in defensive rating is largely because of him. And I think he's just been generally good. I think when you have Duran now, you really have to define a role for him because it doesn't. I think they were banking on that star upside that he has, where like he has that offensive skill set to be a vertical spacer. He flashed some mid-range ability the last couple of years. He hasn't really done that this year. Like his playmaking, all of that, his touch around the rim, offensive, defensive rebounding, all that are things that they seem to want to rely on coming into the season, and none of it really has come forward. So I feel like Duran is someone that you're going to have to really define a role for until like you're able to see some of that progress, because if not, it puts you in a tricky position. So if you can put Duran in a role now where you can use him as a role man, you can use him for his vertical spacing, occasionally use him to handle the ball in the post and make plays for others. That's probably your best move, because right now defensively, he's not really going to give you much. I feel like right now, like you just kind of have to accept things for what they are, because if not, it's going to keep biting you in the ass like it is.
yeah. It's a great point from you, just in regards to not feeling his impact. Like, I just I haven't felt like it's been very rare we've had those moments. Like, I've been surprised, like you just mentioned there, like him being a role man. Like, I'm like, he had a couple actually, probably against the Bulls, but like, I haven't felt his presence at all. Like offensively, like he does some things, but I don't know. Like you're around the team a little bit. I don't know if you can answer this or are comfortable answering this, but how do you think, like, if JB was to make that move, and say to JD, look, we're going to bring you off the bench for a little bit, try and like carve you out a new role here, get your confidence back up, or whatever it might be the case, and we're going to start Stu. Do you have any idea how that might affect him or what? Like, yeah,
I mean, it's hard to say because it
yeah,
hasn't happened,
yeah,
but just kind of having a gauge of things, I don't really think it would be seen as like the demotion that maybe some fans see it as. Just because, I mean, like Stewart comes off the bench, but he plays starter minutes. And Beasley comes off the bench and is like I think you could make an argument like he's like the second or third most important player for the Detroit
Yeah.
Pistons, like consistently. Like I think the bench is what it is, and I remember I was watching the podcast the Pistons put out the other day with Malik and
Yeah.
Dr. Darius, shout out. Um, he talked about how there was like this thing with like the bench mob, like they always say like, oh, next guy up. So if Duran really is supposed to be your guy going forward, thumbs down on that too. Yeah.
That's
It's
the
so
weird,
random.
bro. That comes from my, sorry, that comes from
Yeah,
my
it's
camera on my thing, man. Can I
yeah,
turn that
it's
off?
I don't know how. It happens to me too. But yeah, no, I think I think Duran would take it fine. Like I think it would genuinely be not an issue. It's really just a matter of doing it. Because I think right now starting Duran's actively hurting you. And I think using him as an energy big off the bench until you start seeing progress is the best course of action. Like I just I don't see, and maybe they're waiting for like an Asar to come back to put him in the starting lineup so that way like Stewart provides that spacing as well, and they can use him more in a stretch big role on offense. But I don't know what the holdup is. But if I were JB Bickerstaff tomorrow, I would make the move to put Isaiah Stewart in the starting lineup and bring Jalen Duren off the bench.
Yeah, I think I'm with you. I've been like tossing up like because like we're saying, Stu's playing starting minutes anyway, and that's the thing. Like it comes back to like they did just have like a top. I think that was sixth at one point in defensive rating. So like, and that was with Durant starting. So the like, it's like, would it actually make that much of a huge difference? But I'm more like think it could be good just to reignite JD coming off the bench. Like, and like you mentioned, I think Stu's outplayed him, but just as a way to, so I've just noticed his energy, like, I don't know, maybe I'm just paying way too much attention to Jalen Duran this season, but just his general demeanor seems a lot more down this season. It feels like there's just like, especially in that Bulls game, it looked like to me like it was weighing on him. Like, and it's like this really obvious thing that he's just struggling to defend. I don't know how else to put it. And I'm just thinking like, yes, Stu's outplayed him, but maybe just bring him off the bench will help take some pressure off him. Um, and help, yeah, just re-energize him. Because like you mentioned, we haven't felt the energy from him. And like it's been noticeable. Um,
Yeah, it is, and I think I'm with you on the demeanor aspect of it. Like the body language isn't great, and I think like he's aware, like he hasn't played as
yeah.
well. So I don't know what it is with him specifically. Um, I heard someone make a joke like he's an Adderall prescription away from being like a top 10 center in the league. Like I don't know what it is for JD, but um I think he has the I don't think there's even an argument to be made that like he doesn't have the skill set. Like he has the skill set. He has
Yeah.
like the innate tools. He's a smart offensive player. It's just really putting in the energy. Like it really you have to just see it more. Because it just hasn't been there this season. And I'm not quite sure what that is.
No, for sure. Well, I want to get through some other things here. We spoke kind of, maybe I'll just get your brief thoughts on Cade's game tonight.
Weird. It was weird. It was a
Yeah,
weird game. He had obvious impact. Like he is pretty much the reason they came back into this game and brought it to overtime. I think he passed up on the game winner because of the hip or tailbone, whatever it is.
yeah,
I think that would be why. But in situations like that going forward, I need to see Cade get the ball in his hands for the last second shot because there's no the Pistons are in a position almost every game to have a last second shot, and I think it was excellent play call to put Duran as the lob man for the first time they ran it. Then the Ron Holland one, sure, I get it, but tonight I like the hip injury if that played a factor in him passing it up, fine. But I really need to see him start stepping up in those moments. And if you miss the shot, you miss the shot. But you have to live and die by Cade in some of these moments. Malik had a good shot. Don't get me wrong. And like it's hard. It's easy to be like, oh, you got to make those. But like at the end of the day, he's such an impactful offensive player that like sometimes you're just bound to miss, and that's
Yeah,
kind of what happened with Malik. But I think Cade has to start taking those last second shots. And I think tonight it was really weird his touch around the rim. I don't know what was happening. He
yeah,
had a lot of good looks. Nothing was going in. I still think his whistle is horrible, don't get me wrong. And I think he got fouled on a whole lot of those. But just the lack of ability to finish really was puzzling. And I he had honestly like still managed to have a pretty good game like stats wise, but the finishing, like if you had 2 or 3 more made layups by Cade, you win this game.
yeah. No, it's some of the misses were puzzling. Um, yeah, I think I don't know if you were on or still joining, but I agree. He definitely brought them back into the game and was a huge reason for them like getting it to overtime and almost winning it. I just there's something about when the ball is not moving and he's just kind of trying to probe and dribbling around for like 15 seconds and then taking a shot that I really just don't like it. And it's not that it's like horrible basketball, but I just feel like the rest of the team kind of just starts watching him
Mhm.
and it just results in a lot of like Cade. Like he actually gets good looks out of it, but it just puts so much wear and tear on him. And then he has these awful turnovers that like just seem like he's gassed. Cause I don't know. Like there's one where he dribbled it off his foot. Um, and I get that he can play like that, but sometimes I'm just like, I just want you to get like because he's such a good playmaker, don't get me wrong. But I just feel like sometimes when he goes into that mode where he's trying to do everything and it's just not working out and like it's kind of just ends with him chucking up shots. I just don't like that for the team. And some of that's on his teammates not stepping up. But um yeah, I just had a note here that I just felt like he wasn't trusting them. And I don't know if that's too broad of a statement, but I just thought he was really trying to win them that game. And ultimately, they nearly do. So maybe I'm just wrong here. But I just sometimes would like to see him get the offense moving more. Like I've always just felt like make one pass, get it back, and then go into your thing. Like, I don't know. Sometimes just when it's him dribbling around, I just get a bit worried about the whole flow and just feels like it's just waiting for like the other team to go on the run. I don't know if that makes any
No, no,
sense.
it does. And like I think it's interesting because Cade kind of plays like the quarterback role on this team
Yeah.
where everything kind of goes through him one way or another. And you can kind of tell when he has the ball in his hands, kind of what's going through his head. Um, I do think you have a point when it comes to not trusting sometimes because you can tell like there's times where he sees that his teammates are open, but he actively decides I can't pass it to them right now. And it's weird. I wonder if it's because of like maybe it's just not the best shot, or maybe like he doesn't think they're gonna make this shot. But I can't help but feel, and it's hard to say like because I myself just earlier in the stream said like we got to like throw away the last few years when it comes to analyzing expectations for this team. But when it comes to like analyzing this team and some of especially like the guys who've been around for, I can swear on here, right?
I think so. Yeah, I've
Okay.
saw
Yeah.
it.
Who've been through like the shit. They've been through
Yeah.
the worst shit of
Yeah.
of anybody, like your Cades, your
Yeah.
Stews. Um, they they have like an effect. Like like those years have had an effect on them where like I almost call it like basketball PTSD, where like
Yeah.
I feel like Cade knows he can trust these guys, like knows he can kick it out to like a Beasley or a Tim Hardaway, a Tobias, Simone, and expect them to hit it. But I feel like there's this habit built from the last couple of years where you just didn't have that, and it's so built into you that you just can't expect to kick it out and expect results. So it's a thing where I feel like Cade sometimes gets into a mode where he's like, I have to do it all for the
Yeah.
team, because that's really what it's been the last few years. And I think that's something that he'll do less, hopefully, going through the season, building that trust with his teammates, getting his teammates better looks sometimes. Like I think that's something that'll happen. But it's interesting. It's really interesting. I feel like it is like a carryover from the last few seasons of just like basketball hell, where he just had to do everything when there was nothing to kick it out to. So it is interesting though.
Yeah. And like like you said, like I thought his game was fine in the end. Maybe, yeah. I think my expectations for him have just gone a bit higher, um, because he has been so good. But I want to ask you about Jaden Ivey. A very weird game for him as well. Like made some kind of plays in overtime, and maybe in the fourth he put them ahead or got it tied up. But just like, yeah, a bit of, I would say probably a poor game overall for him. I think it's
Yeah.
I think even against the Bulls he's struggled as well. He was really good against the Raptors the game before. Um, how are you feeling about him after such a like awesome preseason and then a really strong start, um,
It does feel
overall?
like he hit earth a little bit, and it's hard to say like, oh well, now like this is like the real Jaden Ivey, like this is like how it's going to be moving forward. But it is also something to look at in terms of like maybe he just really had a really explosive start, and now teams are kind of figuring him out a little more, which is possible. And what would make Ivy the player that the Pistons drafted, what would make Ivy the player that is Cade's 1B, what would make him like that fire and ice, what would make him that core foundational piece for the Pistons moving forward is how he reacts to teams figuring him out, how he creates for himself, for others. If he doesn't like, if he can lose the tunnel vision, because he gets it sometimes, you can see
Yeah,
him get tunnel vision sometimes. If he can just figure it out as he goes, then he is that foundational piece that the Pistons expect him to be, and most Pistons fans expect him to be. I thought tonight was a frustrating game for him because it was a game where Cade wasn't finishing around the rim, and that's like his specialty, right? Like that's where Ivy has to step up. But his shooting splits tonight were rough. And on top of that, when he had the ball in his hands, it didn't feel like it was going anywhere. He wasn't making really great reads, and he wasn't driving with. And this is something that when we talk about the beginning of the season, like when he drove to the rim the first preseason and beginning of the season, one thing I had noted was like it felt like he was driving with purpose now. Like he's driving and he has some sort of plan in mind, where like in his first couple of years, it really felt like a lot of times he would drive to the basket and it's like all hell breaks loose one way or another. Like he goes up and he's gonna like take the shot, or like he goes up and now he decides he's gonna make a jump pass to like the corner, or like make a jump pass to Jalen Duren, who might not be ready for it. So then it turns into a turnover. Like it turned into this unpredictable thing whenever he drove. That now the beginning of the season, it really seemed controlled, and this game was kind of a flashback to the first couple of years to me of Jaden Ivey's like low lights. And I
yeah,
think part of it is sometimes I think it's a mental thing for him. I think like he gets in his own way a lot of times when it comes to like the mistakes he makes. There was one turnover he made where like it's that thing where like he literally, you see him, he gets stuck in midair and now he has to make like a last minute decision, and like sometimes they can bail themselves out, but other times that leads to a turnover, and that really has to stop. He needs to kind of figure out jump passes are not my thing. Because those cost for a lot of turnovers and a lot of just offensive chaos that like it throws things out of whack, where like maybe he doesn't turn it over, but the ball gets tipped and now you're scrambling for the ball. You got like 6 seconds left on the shot clock when you get possession. You have to figure out something now. I think Ivy is someone who's like Duran, supremely talented, has all the tools to be great. It really just is putting them together. And I think for him, it's really figuring it out. Um, if Cade, like we said, like if Cade misses time, Tobias is obviously going to need to step up, but more than anybody else, it's going to need to be Ivy.
absolutely, yeah.
If he is the player that he is supposed to be, and that honestly I do think he is, then he will take this opportunity with Cade missing, if he misses time, to be that guy, to be that initiator on offense, to create for himself on an elite level, and to create for others.
Yeah, I'm gonna be really intrigued because I feel like Kate's probably going to miss the Orlando game, the next game, seeing how Jaden goes by himself. Because Kate's played every game this season, hasn't he? Yeah.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
it's gonna be interesting to see how he looks. Um, because this version of Ivy, who I still think is much improved from last season. And honestly, I'm not too concerned yet. Like it's what was that game like 17? I think still for at least 10 of those games he's been really good. And then he's had a couple of bad ones, but he's in year three. Yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see how he goes as the main guy if that opportunity comes up. I got a few comments in here about some fans are pretty down. Derek says, I don't even know what to say anymore. There's some other fans in here saying we're still a bad team. I'm so frustrated. I know we were just talking about how 7 and 10 is probably a bit below expectations of where they should be based on how we've seen them play so far. And sorry, they do have some tough Western Conference teams coming up in the next couple of weeks. Just what's your overall vibe for the rest of this season with the Pistons?
So I feel like I'm one of the few people who this team is pretty much where I expected them to be. Just because I feel like a lot of people looking into the season looked at teams like Charlotte and looked at teams like some people said Washington, like some people like said Toronto as teams that, even Brooklyn. I heard some Brooklyn chatter. Not many people said the Pistons in terms of fighting for a play-in spot. I said the play-in spot will firmly come down to Charlotte and Detroit this season. And that's pretty much what I'm expecting right now. If they finish higher, then that's like incredible. But I think this is a team that's firmly a play-in adjacent team. Whether they make it or not, I expect this team with a fully healthy Cade, of course, to be fighting for that 8, 9, 10 seed by the end of the year, possibly even 7. I don't think this is a team that is as bad as fans, because I think every time the Pistons lose, it's like, ah, man, they're still bad. Like they're still the same team as
Yeah,
last year. And yes, they have I think this isn't a bad team. I think they have really bad habits. This is a team that on paper it should be pretty respectable and like plays pretty competitive basketball. They have, however, some of the worst habits in basketball, and them really making that step to the competitive, play in whatever race that they're in is going to have to be losing those habits, and it's going to have to be also taking themselves a little more seriously, like looking at a Duran. Like you have to take it a little more seriously and understand that like every game counts now, right? Like you're not playing meaningless basketball anymore. Like this is an Eastern Conference that's really up for grabs. Like if this Pistons team were where they should be, when we talk about games they, quote unquote should have won, they should be in like the top of the East right now, which sounds
yeah.
ridiculous, but they should be. Like they should be in that 3, 4, maybe 5 seed range. And they're not. And like I don't know what 7 and 10 brings them to, if that's like 8, 9, 10.
They'd be in there somewhere.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but they're still in the mix. They should be like legitimately right now in the top of the Eastern Conference. It sounds stupid, because they're the Pistons, and what people associate with the Pistons are 28 losses in a row and constantly falling to the 5th pick. But this team, as it stands right now, I think is a respectable basketball team. I think if they don't meet these expectations that I set, where they're, at the end of the season, maybe at like the 12, 13 seed range, then I think that's a major disappointment and failure. Especially, like I said, considering the strength of the Eastern Conference right now, this is your best shot to really turn things around in terms of culture. And I know they mentioned like a lot of times, like I've been to like, many press conferences and everything like that. And they consistently say, we're not looking at wins and losses in terms of growth and improvement. But at the end of the day, wins and losses do mean a whole lot. Right. And I think this is a team that, like, I think there was a quote, this was from Omari, where Ivy said, like, we cherish every win. Like every win means so much to us. And you can tell. So this is a team that really needs to learn how to close out basketball games and win basketball games that they're supposed to win, because they're not the 28 losses in a row Pistons anymore. This is a team that should be winning a lot more games, and this is a team that should be beating bad teams. Charlotte is not a marginally better basketball team than Detroit. Uh like they lost to
I mean, they should.
Chicago the other night. That is not a better basketball team than Detroit. These are games that they really should win. Like the fact that Toronto game, came down to the wire. Like, granted, they finished that one out. These are games that they should be winning. The Milwaukee game, like, that's a great team because they have Giannis, right? But they should have won that basketball game. So it's really going to be learning how to win basketball games, and if they can't do that, um, that's not good. Right? I don't know what to say
No.
about the direction of the team, but they really need to figure it out.
Yeah, I absolutely, like, I'm with you. Like, I think I still have, like, I still suffer from last season and just thinking they shouldn't be in any game, and I almost have, like, put this wall up for my own sanity to be like, the fact that I'm always just trying, like, on the side of, like, okay, they're 7-10. That's, I'm always just comparing it to the last 2 seasons, but that's just not a good measuring stick. And they actually do have the talent. Like, I know the Bulls are a fun team at the moment. Like, they shoot a lot of threes and that kind of thing, but they shouldn't have lost that game the way they did. And then these Hornets games, like, you should have won the bare minimum one of those. Like, because talent wise, they're very even. And yeah, it's frustrating, but then I'm like, oh, they're 7-10, and like you said, they're still very much in the mix. But it's just, this whole season's just been such a new experience for me, at least, where I'm just like, expectations change day to day. 2 hours are like, during these streams, I'll be like on the team, then 2 hours later, I'll be like, oh well, it's just, I'm all over the place constantly.
Yeah, it's a really weird basketball team. Like, I think you can
Yeah,
just say that objectively. Like, this is a
yeah,
team that you tune into any night and you never know. Actually, no, at this point, you expect the unpredictable, right? Like, this is a team that you
literally.
tune into and you're like, okay, somehow they could be down 19, 20 points, and you know that this game is going to end on a last second shot one way or another. Um, it's really just it's such a weird basketball team. It's such a weird viewing experience. Um,
Exactly.
and hopefully the weird falls on the side of the positive a little more.
Absolutely, my man. Well, I'm going to bring up Cody in a minute, but thank you so much for joining. Been a pleasure. Tell the people where they can find you, what you've got coming up, and all that kind of stuff, because you do amazing work.
Thank you, man. Appreciate you having me on. First time, long time. But I do Pistons coverage for Bully Ball. That's my outlet. It's at Real Bully Ball on everything. My socials are at Zarek Xavier on everything. I do writing, and then I also do a whole lot of photography as well. I cover the team doing like pictures, and then I write, and I do a little bit of reporting here and there. I do pretty much anything I can related to this basketball team in terms of coverage and content. So just give us a follow. That's pretty much all I got.
I love it, man. And like I said, you do amazing work, so keep it up. And
Thank you.
I'm sure most people in here know who you are and your work. So keep killing
Appreciate
it,
it.
brother. Thank
Thank
you
you,
so
man.
much. Cody, my man, I feel like you're going to bring some heat. Or is
Ace Bailey agenda is in full swing, baby.
what?
Let's
I just have
go.
I just have to say, to keep you to your word, 3 positives for me.
Dude, you can't get 3 positives out of that game. Tobias Harris is my only positive in the entire game.
I feel like in these moments, Wendell Moore seems to be another positive.
Yeah, okay.
And I'm gonna say Fontecchio. I'm helping you out here. I thought Fontecchio, he was actually solid
He was
tonight.
fine. He was fine.
All right, we've got the 3 positives. How are you feeling?
Negative.
Yeah.
You can't lose that game. The
Yeah.
Hornets lineup is They didn't have Miles Bridges. They didn't have Nick Richards. They didn't have Mark Williams. LaMelo Ball fouled out in overtime. LaMelo Ball had to sit for like 12 straight minutes of game time. Like, what are we doing here? You can't lose that game. You can't. It's pathetic. Pathetic.
Yeah, it's that. I mean, honestly, like, overall, I can't dispute you, but those first 3 quarters, especially, I was just like, that was pretty dark. I thought, just after 2 days rest, some, like, the defense and the energy from everyone, like, yeah. It
I don't
stood
want. I
out
don't want
so
to.
much. It was pretty alarming, to be honest. But
Yeah, I don't
then
want to
they
come
come
out and
back. But yeah.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I was gonna say I don't want to come out and disagree with Zariq too hard, but Cade was terrible tonight. He was awful.
Yeah.
Maybe me and him watched different games. I don't know. I thought Cade was awful. A bunch of stupid turnovers, like that stretch in the early fourth, and they cut it to 6. He turns it over off his foot, easy layup, comes down, takes a horrific layup, blocked, dunk on the other end, back to 10. Like you cannot have those stretches. How do you like you saw what LaMelo and Brandon Miller did when like their team needed them? They went crazy. I'm waiting for that moment with Cade. I'm waiting for Cade to take over a basketball game when it counts. And he is not the reason they got back into this game tonight. It was Tobias. It was a little bit of Fontecchio. It was a little bit of, I thought it was a bunch of other guys that got them back into the game. Jalen Duren even had a few nice plays. I thought he was bad overall, but yeah, no, I do not agree that Cade was the reason they got back in this game. I thought he was, like I said, I thought he was pretty terrible overall.
Yeah, it was what and just in terms of watching that was some of the most frustrated I felt watching Cade. I can't explain it earlier, so I don't want to go too into it, but I just thought he was forcing it and just not in like just the offense was just him dribbling in circles, which I don't know how much of that's on JB, but it just felt like way too much like Cade almost ISO. Like I didn't even feel like he involved JD like in any pick and rolls. Like I don't know how much of that's on Cade, but I just thought it's pretty stagnant and just stale. And I was just frustrated watching it. And then that stretch at the start of the fourth, I was like, I just like what I just don't understand. Like he must be gassed, he must be tired, he must be half injured. Like I just don't understand some of these turnovers. Genuinely.
Well, when do you? At what point does he get into basketball shape then? Because like this is the story. This is like for the most part the story of his career is like he just does not deliver in the fourth quarter for the most part. I know he's had games this year where he has. I think they looked lost without him in overtime, which stunk obviously. So you see how much he means to the team still because they don't have a backup point guard, so you need him to get into actions. But I mean, it was a really I mean, I don't know. What did he shoot? What was his? How many? Cause I feel like he had to shoot like 35%, 40%.
34%, 35%. Sorry.
And like one or two of 9 or 10 from 3.
Yeah, two of 11, I think. 2 of 9.
That's not acceptable from your best player, especially when you watch LaMelo Ball and Brandon Miller go flamethrower mode.
So we've got a comment here from Obi, and I think it's worth a discussion. Cade is nowhere near as good as LaMelo. That should be clear now if it wasn't before.
Yeah, I don't know about that. LaMelo got benched for the entire fourth quarter the other night because he played it terrible, and Charles Lee was like, "You can't play this way; it's unacceptable." So LaMelo Ball is not without mistakes and bad games. For some reason, he just seems to have it against the Pistons. I don't know what it is. I mean, he's obviously really good. I mean, I think he's top 5 or 7 in the NBA in scoring this year. Granted, he gets to take a million shots through that offense because they jack shots, but obviously LaMelo's really good, but I don't think overall he's definitely like as bad as Cade was defensively tonight. LaMelo's not a good defender at all. LaMelo does nothing defensively. So I think Cade's a much better two-way player than LaMelo. I think LaMelo's the better scorer, but I think everything else that Cade brings on a night where he's good makes Cade better. But
I think though, like you highlighted it though, like the difference between the two, at least on offense, is that takeover element. Cade, we can talk about the fact his way of controlling a game is more like, like picking apart a defense, kicking out the shooters, scoring when it's there, and whereas LaMelo can just take over and score 20 in a quarter. I don't feel like Cade's shown he can do that or anything close to that, and I think that's where you see that from LaMelo, and because he's kind of done that in both games, and I can at least, while I disagree, I can see why fans feel like that. Just if you're just watching.
Yeah, I mean, no doubt about it. LaMelo's got much better scoring pop. Like, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. Yeah, I mean, LaMelo's a much better scorer. I don't think that's questionable. But I think the other things that Cade does that LaMelo doesn't really do is what puts him over the top.
Can I ask you? So, Motor City Crew says here, How about the fact that Moore was in there and not Ron, THA, or Tech? Tells you a lot. So I think he's talking about overtime and end of fourth there. The bigger question here is thoughts on JB tonight.
I thought it was absolutely ridiculous that he didn't call timeout when that ball went to Beasley in the corner.
In the corner? Yeah.
Like, you have 2 timeouts. How are you not using a timeout there with 6 seconds left to draw it up? I get it. If Beasley got a wide open 3 in the corner there and he misses it, whatever. It's a wide open 3. You live with it. Or maybe he gets a pump fake on a real hard charging Brandon Miller and he gets a nice one dribble to the left, pull up jumper, whatever. But Brandon Miller closed out aggressively and well. And that's where, as a coach, you have 2 timeouts. You call one there and you use it and you drop a good play when the shot clock is when the game clock's at 6.7 and the shot clock's at 4.7. You still have a full 5 seconds to run your action. And as we saw with the Hornets, they only needed 1.2 to get LaMelo a very clean look. And JB's already proven that he can get a clean look late clock multiple times this year. So that bewildered me. That was
frustrating because I know Beasley ends up getting that look and he should have had that put back, but like the shot he got before that was horrific. It was like a floater on the baseline. Like that's just, I agree. Should have called the timeout there. Was there anything else?
I wish when they saw that it was going so bad offensively in overtime early, they would have made a sub up for Wendell. And I don't care who that is of the 3 listed. I doubt it would be Ron, but maybe Tech. THJ was booty cheeks tonight, so he's 0 of 12 in his last 2 games from 3. That I feel like that injury really stunted his momentum because he's been flat out garbage the last 2 games and not helping the team at all. Where through the first, he missed 2. They played 16 through the first 10 or 12 games. He was a bright spot.
Yeah.
He's been actively hurting the team the last 2 games. But I would have liked to see a little bit more offensive pop in that lineup.
You mentioned to me when we were messaging as well, getting Sasser in there. I know he came in, but I feel like with Ivy's foul trouble, like Sasser, like I was just talking about how I thought Cade just had the ball way too much. Like a guy like Sasser could have helped in that first half, maybe third quarter.
In the third quarter, I thought they should have went to Sasser way earlier because Cade was doing what he did. What game was that? The Raptors in the third quarter, where he was just shot chucking, brutal shot chucking. And I'm like, why are we letting him? Why is his leash so long when he's clearly not doing anything right? And I think credit to JB, he sat him for a while. He sat Cade for a while there, and the reserves actually picked it up big time and got them back into it. And Cade kind of finished that run. Or help finish that run later. But I think Cade had too long of a leash tonight, and he was actively pulling them out of that game for a while there in that third quarter. He was really hurting the team.
That third quarter that might have been my least favorite quarter of the season because I've forgotten the Knicks game, but like third quarter was so bad. I'm just checking some questions here, but fire away any other thoughts you've got while I just scan through. Thoughts on Tech's game quickly. I know I kind of touched on it, but
I thought it was fine. Made a couple big shots.
Yeah.
I did think he got fouled on that 3 in the corner that he didn't get a call for. Stu ended up getting 2 free throws, made 1, missed 1. But that could have been a huge little help in the third. I thought he was fine overall. He didn't do anything really wrong. I don't think he was great defensively. I don't think anyone really was, but I think Tech played a fine game. I think he was overall fine. I think the only player who played really well tonight was Tobias, and that's end of list.
Yeah. I think the one thing just on Tech before we move on, I think his last 3 games he's actually shot decently from 3, which is nice. Just to see him string a few games together. But I thought I saw you in the comments saying give Tobias credit, but was that his best game, do you think, for the season?
Easily.
Yeah, just in terms of shot making, I thought he made some really key shots in that fourth, I think it was.
Yeah, he only missed a couple shots in the game, really, and his shot selection was good, and I mean, he made some extremely key 3-pointers throughout
Yeah.
the whole game. Really, he was kind of like the Malik Beasley tonight. I know Beasley made a couple threes that were impactful too, but Tobias really showed up today. When I thought overall Malik and obviously THJ did not really give the team the lift they needed. But yeah, I thought Tobias is one of the main reasons they were in the game. Honestly,
Yeah,
they
no,
played
I
really
thought
well.
that was the first time I just feel like he's really hit key. He's kind of struggled the whole season actually, but he just hit, yeah, like you said, some key threes, 6 or 9. And if Cade's out, like we're gonna need that from him. And I'm
Yeah,
not the 26 points, but well, you do need the 26, but just him hitting key shots, like to have
I
any chance.
saw Amari tweeted he doesn't think it's serious at all. He saw Kane in the locker room in good spirits.
Oh, awesome.
So
Awesome.
yeah,
That's good to hear.
he doesn't think it's very serious.
Okay, that is some very positive news. We can add that to the list. YouTube user says here, how are we feeling about making the play-in tournament after these last 2 games?
I don't want to.
You don't want to make it?
No, it's so clear and obvious. They need another guy, Jack. I hate to tell you, I hate to be the bearer of bad news. When you see a guy like Brandon Miller, like that top end
Yeah.
scoring talent, and
Yeah.
you think about putting a guy like that next to Cade, because Ivy's never going to be like a Brandon Miller in terms of like scoring. Like I will hit threes if you leave me open every time. I have a great mid range game. I can get to my spots, and Brandon Miller is obviously not even fully polished yet. I don't think Ivy is either. But like, I foam at the mouth thinking about this team adding an Ace Bailey. Like I foam at the mouth. I watched this game last night. Ace Bailey, that kid is a freak show. Cooper Flagg, freak show. Like that. Like I said, that takes this Pistons team from playing to let's go. Let's go. Start making some noise in the East.
Yeah.
I hate to be the bearer of bad news. I don't really think from a night in, night out perspective, I don't think this team's good enough to make the play-in. Like I get it. You lose to the Pacers, the Celtics. You lost 2 games to the Hornets, and
Yeah.
like you lost a game where I thought you got pretty much beat down in, despite the late comeback of the fourth against the Chicago Bulls. Like I know in the NBA games happen, whatever. I just don't think this team is going to be consistently good enough. I still stick by 28 to 30 wins. I think that's where they'll end up. I think there'll be like 9th, 10th in the lottery odds. Then I'm hoping and praying for some black magic.
What do you think, just based on some of the early draft stuff? I know you watch college basketball. I don't watch it at all. What do you think? What type of pick do you think the Pistons have to get? Like, do you think it's top 3, top 2?
I think to get it's so early, and there's
Yeah,
guys
I know.
already rising. Like most college basketball teams only played 5 games, and obviously they play 30 plus the tournament. So it's really hard to say, but like I don't know how to pronounce his name either. But that kid from BYU is pretty freaky.
Yeah.
He's like this 6'7", 6'8", sniper who's got a good handle, and I mean, I think they probably have to end up top 5 to get a really, really impactful player.
Yeah.
And I think top 2 is like top 2 or top 3. I think is franchise changing in this draft.
Yeah, it's so interesting because I was listening to Game Theory Pod with Sam Vecini and obviously Bryce, and they briefly spoke about the Pistons amongst like the tanking teams. Not that they were saying Pistons were one that were actively tanking, but Sam said like he had an he how did he phrase it? It was like an informed opinion that if the Pistons are even remotely close to the plane, the directives to go for it.
Yeah, I mean, I think they have to. I don't disagree at all.
But it's like, but I'm saying like, yeah, but I just thought maybe Trajan wouldn't want to do that, but I guess ownership want that relevance. So I guess, do you think, so that's how you feel about it. What do you think's going to happen? Because I think we're going to find out a lot about this team in December when they actually play some travel out west.
I think they'll be between the 9th and the 11th seed in the East.
Yeah.
I think they'll end up either in that play-in or right outside it. Honestly, because I know the Sixers are really, really bad right now, and they have a lot of drama going on. But that's a team with all the talent in the world, and they could easily go on a 7 or 8 game winning streak.
Yeah.
and put themselves right back into the cup. I know it doesn't seem like it now because they're playing off basketball, but like the Bucks are still behind you. That's not going to last. I mean, realistically, you're going to be fighting in that window between. It'll be like Charlotte, Bulls, Pistons ish
Hawks.
range,
Yeah.
where that's where I think they'll settle in. And are they good enough to make it over those teams? Absolutely. I think they're better than both those teams, even though they're 0-3 on the season. But I just don't know if from a night in, night out basis that this team can win enough games the way they play pretty much every game close. I mean, they have one, maybe two, the Brooklyn game. They have two comfortable wins on the whole season. The rest of them barn burner, nail biters, and then they have a bunch of really close losses. I just don't know if this team can consistently pull out enough of those real barn burners to get where they want to go this season.
Yeah. I'm just finding it really hard to evaluate. Like, just not even like, I don't know. Like, are these close games now? Is it starting to? Obviously, in some of the games they've come back. In a lot of them, it feels like they've given up a lead. I think tonight was a game they didn't deserve to win, and they almost stole for sure. But it's like like you said, how many more of these before it just starts going one way and they just start, they don't have that fight to get back in after getting down 10, and I don't know which way it's going to go. I really don't, because you can't keep this up the whole season where it's just constantly like this.
Yeah, I think like I said many times in this pod, I think it's going to be like one win in every 3 or 4 games. Like I think that's how it's going to go. Like you're going to see a lot of these
close ones, or just overall the season.
Overall this season, I think because like they've played what now? This is number 17, so they have 65 left. If you were to win one of every 3, that puts you on pace for 27 wins.
Yeah.
No, sorry. For 28 or 29 wins. Right where I think they're going to be.
Yeah.
So, I mean, could they have a stretch where they steal a couple more and they get over 30? Yeah, and in the East, is that enough? I mean, is 34 wins? Is a 34 and 48 basketball team good enough to make the play-in the East? Maybe. Yeah. In the way it's looking, for sure, it could be. But I've come to the conclusion that they really, really, really need one more piece.
Yeah.
And I don't know how you get it very easily if you give this draft pick up.
Oh, true. So, because is it top 13 protected, that pick?
Top 13 protected. So you can still do what the Atlanta Hawks did. You can still make the play-in, lose right away. You're then the 10th, technically the 10th best lottery odds. You keep your pick, and then you can do a jump from, 12 to or 10, 11 or 12 to 1 or 2 or 3. So they can make the play-in and then lose and then still keep their pick. And I think it would be really interesting to see what would happen if they did get there, because I really think deep down in his heart of hearts, Trajan does not want to lose his pick.
No.
Because it really, there's two sides of it, right? You lose the pick, you get all control of your assets back. If not, the protection keeps going. Right?
I was just trying to say, when does it actually get to a point though where it just conveys to unprotected?
I think it's 2027. So I think it's after this year, it's 2 more years.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't convey in 2027, it's a second round pick. But sorry. I think this is the draft where you probably, because then at least it opens up. You can trade that pick still in a loaded draft and get a more established player.
Yeah, true.
Or you can make the pick and get one more hopefully blue chip talent, and then next year you're losing your pick. You don't really care, and you're gonna make some tough decisions on some guys, and hopefully you have the roster you want going forward when you know that you have all assumable control of your picks again.
That's the thing, yeah, because they can't. Correct me if I'm wrong here, because I'm not the best with this stuff, but my understanding is they can't trade future firsts right now.
They can, but they're super far out.
Okay, all right.
You can trade like super far out first round picks.
Like we're talking like 5 years away.
Yeah, you can't trade the super.
like the next few seasons.
Yeah, you can't trade the super close ones.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so to even go in. So it's kind of like you kind of to get that new because I mean it's going to be tough to see them ever trading for an actual like true multi-time all-star. Like Brandon Ingram's probably a guy they could get if they wanted him. I feel like, but I don't know with what we're seeing. How much like is that a move you would even want to make? Like I think you'd much prefer to go to the draft.
Depends on the pick.
Yeah.
I think that's a time where you look at it and you say, okay, it's the 10th pick. Do you do a sign and trade for Brandon Ingram? Like the Pelicans sign him, trade him over to Detroit. Detroit assumes that contract. You trade the 10th pick and Durant and somebody else, and then you roll with Ingram. Because I don't think, like, in draft for draft, the 10th pick, you're not going to get a player better than Brandon Ingram very often.
That's the thing I want to talk about. Yeah, like I think that's the thing in all this. Maybe I'm getting like you're right. You're so right about Brandon Ingram. I think my biggest concern with him is honestly just his injury history. But maybe that's I haven't looked into it enough recently. Like, but that like because I'm so interested to see what like Derek says here. We need another top 100 guy for Cade to play with. So intrigued to see how Cade's game elevates when he has another true bucket getter alongside him. Like and I have another question. Like, do you think it's fine to extend Ivy if he's only going to be that third option guard you put alongside Cade?
I mean, this is the year where I think they actually like they're not going to have that much cap room, but I think after this year it gets real muddy.
Yeah.
Unless you trade, unless Tobias is a part of these packages or something, or you get off Tobias and then you clear open room again. But, I mean, the worst thing that happens is, let's say you go to the draft, you get the 10th pick, you draft a player that doesn't really have the highest ceiling, you hope he pans out, and then you let Ivy play through his year where he could get an extension, and he balls out, and then you're bidding against. Because I mean, I don't know what Ivy's slot is, and I don't even think he could get the max. I don't think he could warrant the max extension like Cade right now. I don't think anyone sees Ivy in that light of like, yeah, we're gonna give this guy $40 million a year. I don't think that's crazy.
Yeah.
But if you went, because I don't think they're gonna extend Durant, sidebar, but I think if you risk it and Ivy really blossoms, then you're like, oh, now we got to pay him a lot more than we could have if we extended him.
Yeah.
And like now the cap, even with Tobias coming off the books next year and Durant coming off the books, the cap is you're not going to have like a mega load. You will have good space, but
yeah,
like what what free agent is going to come to like that's what we got. That's why like the Brandon Ingram thing keeps smashing me in the forehead. Like the Pelicans have made it pretty clear they're not going to re-sign him. They're free falling right now. They're taking on a huge risk. Like they just saw what the Raptors did with Pascal. That didn't work out. Like overall, I think that Pascal trade was a failure.
Yeah.
If we're being real. So, and Pascal's been very key for Indiana. You know, I think the Raptors, if they would have been more willing to deal, could have got more. Obviously, he kind of tied their hands because he was like, I'm not playing anywhere you send me. So,
yeah,
like that's a risk for the other team on the other side of it too. But who knows if Brandon Ingram would be like, I don't want to play with the Pistons. I don't want to be on the Pistons.
Yeah.
Like that's always something that's going to go into it. But I mean, he's averaging like 24 and 6 this year on high efficiency. Good. Like even if that guy only plays, let's say you factor his injury history, he only plays 60 games a year. Dude, how are you going to find that guy in the draft at 10th?
Yeah, no, it's that's the thing. Like sometimes I think we forget that like Brandon Ingram, second overall pick. I think he's been an all-star at least once. Like he's a really, really good player. Like
yeah, and this year he's having his best year of his career.
Yeah. And that's where I'm like, and he's still like not that old. Like he'd be
28.
What, 27?
Gonna be 28 this year. I mean,
yeah.
It's not
So
ancient. I mean, we just wanted Cam Johnson last offseason. He was 26. He's 27 now.
yeah,
Like, and I don't think there's anyone in the world who thinks Cam Johnson's better than Brandon Ingram overall. Maybe better defensively, but he's not a bucket like that.
yeah.
Like, and I think like Brandon Ingram opens up so much for everybody else.
That's the thing, yeah, where I'm like starting to think like I personally still don't think we're at a Brandon Ingram trade like right now. And I don't know if that's how you feel, but that's where I'm just starting to think when you see games like tonight where I'm getting on Cade about his game, but I'm also like that no one has really like Tobias was actually solid tonight, but he's just not really a guy who can take the pressure off Cade in terms of clearly ball handling. Yeah, that's what I'm just starting to think now. Like, do you like unless you get that top 2 pick, like, is bringing in another draft pick that might take 3 or 4 years the thing you want to do around Cade? Or it's a real confusing.
Well, and that's just my whole point. I just don't see what other avenues the Pistons take
Yeah,
if they don't take one of those avenues. And like, I think why so many Pistons fans are against the Brandon Ingram trade is because we saw what Blake trade did to the franchise.
yep,
It felt like a panic move. It blew up the squad. Honestly, like we had a couple
yep,
years where we were competitive, but like he obviously had the injury concerns. His knees gave out at the end. We didn't get anything for him because teams knew his knees were cooked. I don't think Brandon Ingram's at that level where it's like, oh, his body's breaking down, and like he could in 3 to 4 years he could be like worthless. Not that Blake was worthless, but he was pretty darn worthless overall.
yep,
And at some point they're gonna have to make a move. It's just what is that move? Like you can't just keep drafting in the top 10
yeah,
and hoping like you find a Dalton Connect or Jared McCain and it all works out. Like nobody thought Jared McCain was gonna be as good as he is. Nobody thought Dalton Connect had a really super high ceiling in the NBA because of his defensive ability. And they're turning out to be pretty good picks, pretty solid picks. Um, and I think it would look a lot different too if, and I'm not out on Ron Holland, so don't anybody take this the wrong way. I like Ron a lot, but I think it looks a little different if they go Donovan Clingan at the 5th overall pick, because then I think you have a clear path then for Duren to be out in a trade. Whereas
yeah,
right now, I think it's like if you trade Duren, like you're starting Stu consistently, and I don't think anybody I don't think Stu's a starting caliber center. Whereas I think Donovan Clingan will be a starting caliber center very soon if he's not already. He already is defensively. Offensively, his game's not polished, but I think that it would make things a lot more clear. And hopefully Ron explodes and he becomes the guy. Like you never know. It's too
yeah.
early. Ron's played 17 games.
Yeah,
Like, there's so much time that just needs to pass for these guys. We need to see what Asar looks like when he comes back. But I still think you're missing that one piece at least on the offensive end. Even if Asar comes back and he's playing demon defense, and the defense looks really good for the rest of the year.
honestly, like even if Asar's back, Ivy's a guy that can give you a relatively efficient 18 to 20, and Cade is who he is. I still think they're missing scoring in the front court, and that's their biggest issue. Or one off, sorry. Like I just think they don't, and I know that's what Tobias is meant to be, but I'm talking long term, obviously. Like there's just not a guy with size that can score consistently. Like I know Asar, we want him to get there, but I think you probably wouldn't want to pin all your hope on him becoming a true scorer in the front court.
No, I mean, unless his handles gets really, really elite and he can get to the rim at will, I don't really see that jumper ever getting to the point where you can count on Asar to score 18 to 20 a game.
Yeah,
Because if he can't make open threes, like what's his path to 18 to 20 if he can't consistently get to the rim using his handle and separation? That's what makes it tough. I mean, Asar's such a valuable player, but it's like, I mean, that's just why, oh man, I'm so torn because I want the Pistons to win. Don't get me wrong.
yeah, yeah,
But
yeah,
if they land Ace Bailey or Cooper Flagg, I'm telling you right now, this team would be very good next year. Like, very good. And that's just where it's like, do you really want to take that chance away and make to make the play in, and at worst get bounced in the first round by the Celtics or Cavs?
I think where people will come back at you is like it's just we are being burned in the draft lottery. It's
Of
so
course.
often.
I mean,
So
there's
it's
no doubt
like
about it. We've been destroyed in the draft lottery.
you would be preying on some pretty incredible luck to get a shot at those two guys, whereas you might gain something a bit more realistic with higher odds of happening by making the play-in. And I'm not I think I'm more aligned with you in the sense they need another guy, but it's just
If they want to do that, then just trade for Brandon Ingram. Screw it.
yeah.
Go make the play and then forfeit your pick. You get your pick back next year and roll with that.
Can you imagine the Pistons community if they trade for Ingram?
It'll be 50-50, I'll tell you that
It
much.
would be so divided.
Yeah, there'll be a lot of guys who will be like, yeah, that's the move. It's time to win. There'll be a lot of people like, well, you just gave up your draft pick in a loaded draft, and Brandon Ingram only plays 62 games a year, and he's not a top 50 player. So what are you doing? And you just signed him for $45 million for 4 years, and blah 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 blah, yada yada yada. They're just gonna have to make a move one way or another if they want to.
Yeah.
If they want to make the play in, and they want to push for the play in, that means you're keeping Malik Beasley. You're keeping, in theory, you're keeping THJ. You probably flip one of those guys, preferably THJ, for a second round pick. That's not going to do you anything. And then you're keeping Tobias. So it's like, okay, now you're going to play, and now if you don't convey your pick, how do you get better right away?
Yeah, you're just
how do you get better?
You're relying on what you have.
I think there's just more paths to getting better if you keep your pick for one more year.
Yeah.
But that's just me. I don't know. Based on my statements in the past and my luck, they would get the 12th pick in the lottery, and after just missing out on the play-in, and they still wouldn't have any path to get much better. So,
I'll ask you, this is from Drake. Got to think the fan base. This is back to the game, but got to think the fan base would have a completely different tune if Beasley hit the game winner from 3 feet away. But absolutely agree with plenty of issues to tighten up.
I wouldn't have.
I know you wouldn't have.
Like they even if they win that game, there were so many glaring, disgusting issues that, like, yeah, okay, they stole one from I think a bad basketball team as well. Like, that's 19 turnovers, Cade playing disgusting hero ball, Ivy being horrible, THJ on a milk carton. Like, there's so much bad in that game that, like, even if they won that game by 2, I'm going to be like, okay, they won. That's good. But Charlotte gave them the game. They didn't win it.
Yeah.
I mean, Charlotte had a 16-point fourth quarter just to let them get into overtime. That's disgusting. 16 points in 12 minutes? That's gross basketball. I mean, yeah, there's until this team, like, what I need from this team to really believe is a 5-game stretch where I believe they play good basketball, win or lose. Because you can obviously play good basketball and run a new team that's better, obviously. But I need a 5-game stretch where this team plays convincingly at least average to above average basketball for 5 games in a row.
Yeah.
There's bad teams that do that. Like right now, since Toronto played us, they're playing good basketball. I'm pretty sure they just beat the T-Wolves tonight. Like, I mean, you can have a 5-game stretch in a season where you play above average to good basketball.
Yeah. No, I feel you. It's just in regards to Drake's kind of statement or question here. Like, this was one of my more, in terms of just overall feelings on the game, definitely one of the more negative ones of the season. Just based on what you said, just some of the issues we saw tonight were just, pretty questionable at times and frustrating. Like, I think the one that I kind of felt like the way they started this game, I know they closed the quarter well, but I just had a feeling like the Hornets immediately got up like 8-2, and I was just like, ooh. I just want to, I know it's way too early, but I just had a feeling about tonight that they didn't start well, and I know they came back, but
there's no excuse for a team this young to come up flat defensively.
Yeah.
After 2 days rest. Like, I don't care if your shots aren't falling. Guard somebody. Like, where is the defense gone that was here? Like, the last 2 games, they've been so bad defensively, like grossly incompetent defensively. And I'm telling you what, it wasn't just Durant tonight.
No, it wasn't. It was definitely wasn't.
Cade had a million lazy closeout. Ivy got stuck in so many screen situations. Gross. Like,
well, that Brandon Miller 3 at the end, Ivy got just like glued to the screen.
yeah.
He just
like you have to have awareness. There's 1.2 seconds left on the clock. Who is the player on the Hornets that you want to touch the ball least? Brandon Miller. Don't let him touch it.
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing? And Stu had bad closeouts today. And getting dominated on the boards by Moussa Diabate. Like, give me a break.
Yeah, both of them. Yeah, Stu. I counted, I think I had 5. I think they were all Diabate offensive rebounds straight out for threes.
Yeah, Moussa Diabate had, 16 rebounds, 17 rebounds?
Something like that, yeah.
Like, dude, this is a guy I watched at Michigan who was average at the college level. And now
he has been rebounding really well. I will say that. I've seen
stuff.
Yeah, but
he wouldn't even, like, if Nick Richards and Mark Williams were healthy, he wouldn't even play. Like, at some point, I'm not giving – it's like, he rebounded well tonight, but, like, the guy wouldn't even play if they were healthy. He's their third center.
Yeah.
Like, have some pride. Don't let the third center beat you. This is the second time we've had a Charlotte matchup this year where Durant did not do what you would think he could do against a team with one center and the ghost of Taj Gibson. Like, what are we doing here? Taj Gibson's 90 in NBA years. He has so much tread on his tires. And you're telling me Durant can't do anything for the most part against those guys? Stu can't do anything for the most part against those guys? No, I won't have it.
Yeah, no, it was there, and there was Stu, there was Durant, but then there was one point where this kind of is on Durant. I'm promise I'm not trying to pick on him, but it was in the 4th, and LaMelo took like a floater. Durant closed out, floater misses. LaMelo just floats in, gets your offensive rebound. Cade doesn't box him out. Like, it's just backbreaking kind of plays that just take the momentum completely.
Yeah, it's gross.
Yeah, that's the stuff that tonight, like that, I kind of find it hard to forget, even if Beasley does hit that shot. Because like you said, I can actually live with missed shots, and if they're defending, their defensive intensity's up, they're rebounding, but when it's too many of those players, it's just hard to feel good. I'm just scanning through some more comments here, but if you have, feel free to fire off any other thoughts. Oh, question actually. Not the biggest game-changing thing, but do you think maybe Beasley should start next game, THJ come off the bench, or do you think it doesn't really matter? A bit like the center position.
No, because I think you're starting to see it pretty consistently that this starting offense is starting slow.
Yeah.
And I think that Beasley's an easy spark plug to put him in. And I think what's it going to hurt? I mean, literally, what's it going to hurt? It looks like it needs a little spark to start games. Beasley is always down to come out firing.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily see it happening. Because like JB, I think he said it right after the preseason. Somebody asked him, "Are you concerned with Tim Hardaway Jr. shooting?" And he's like, "No, I'm not, because I've seen the guy make a bazillion threes in the NBA, and he's a shooter, shoot, and they don't always make it." I don't think a 2-game slump from JB is gonna be like, "Oh, when you get THJ out." Yeah. Malik's still playing starters minutes. So I don't know if I really think Zarik had a good point earlier when he said, I think JB might be waiting to make tweaks to the starting lineup until Asar comes back.
Sure.
And then you flip Asar for either Tobias or THJ, and then you flip Stu for Durant. And then if you flip Asar for Tobias, then maybe you go then maybe Beasley comes in for more shooting, and you can go a little smaller at the first 3 positions, because THJ is a little bit bigger than Malik Beasley, but Asar is just a great defender, and I think he can cover a lot of that stuff up. Maybe they were just waiting for that. I don't necessarily see. I mean, it's gonna be interesting to see if Cade plays on Saturday, because if Cade doesn't play, I think that game's a bloodbath with the way the Magic defend. I think they kill the Pistons by a zillion.
Yeah, especially because it's in Orlando. Yeah, well, it feels. I mean, I think Asar was upgraded to doubtful
Doubtful.
for tonight, so I think that's a positive. That means, yeah, I think he was with the Crews for a day. I don't even know how that fully works, but it's all progress. So
Yeah, I mean, I can't believe we haven't talked about it yet today, but just another game that shows you how valuable Asar is.
I can't wait for him.
You don't have
That's
anybody to
actually,
guard these guys who can close out games.
I think that's gonna all act. That's going to clearly that's gonna help us as fans. I think we need that jolt of excitement a little bit because these close games are just putting us through it. Like not complaining too much because of what we saw last season, but yeah, they just desperately need a wing that can make some plays in the defensive end.
Yeah, I mean, let me tell you, if Brandon
Like,
Miller cooks Asar, I'll clap my hands. I'm not like wowed by Brandon Miller cooking Jaden Ivey.
and well, that's the thing, honestly. Like, but Brandon Miller, what's he like? A solid. He's like 6'7", 6'8", isn't
Yeah,
he?
he's big. And he's
Like,
got
so
ridiculous wingspan.
yeah, he's like Ivy had to fight over that screen better, but he's probably still shooting over the top of Ivy. I mean,
exactly.
it wasn't.
You
I'm
can't
not.
do that against Asar.
Yeah. See, look at this. Yeah, wow. LaMelo and Brandon Miller combined for 73 points. Wow. Like, at least one of them's not going off like that.
Yeah, 73 points in a what was it, a 2-point win.
Yeah. That's insane. What did that's like 2/3.
That's like 65-ish% of their points.
No one else even. Cody Martin had 15, then Grant Williams, Josh Green had like 10 and 12.
Yep.
That's insane.
And guess what? They both did it on really good efficiency.
Yeah.
Brandon Miller didn't score a single point from the free throw line. He had 38.
Yeah, 38. 8 of 12 from 3, 60% overall.
Yeah.
LaMelo, it says 45%, but I feel like he just missed some shots at the end of that fourth. Otherwise, he was over 50%.
I mean, what do you shoot from three?
Is that for a 12?
That's actually shockingly low, actually, because he hit 3 in a row in the third quarter.
Yeah, he took some bad shots in that fourth, actually, when they couldn't score, to be honest.
Yeah.
But yeah, I did not realize they both had over 35 or 35 or more.
Yeah, they said on the broadcast it's the first time in Charlotte Hornets history where they had two players in the same game score more than 35.
Were you listening to the Hornets broadcast? Or was that the Pistons?
Hornets broadcast.
For Eric Collins?
Yeah, I hate their broadcast too. I hate it.
Why were you listening there?
Because that's the only choice you have when you watch on.
Got you.
Yeah. You get the away or you like sometimes you get the home team broadcast, sometimes you get the away, and it's completely random.
Yeah, no.
And honestly, I mean, it would have been Johnny Kane, so honestly, it would have been more bearable. But I can't listen to George Blaha anymore. He's beyond cooked. I get letting him do it till he wants to retire because he's been such an integral part of the franchise and the broadcast, but
yeah.
I cannot listen to George Blaha talk basketball anymore. He's ancient.
I think where it's gotten to the point where he constantly gets players wrong and he's in the stadium, that's when it's like, I know he's a legend, but it's like, yeah. Like, so since I've been a fan, like, how long have him and Kelso been doing games?
Forever, like, man.
Obviously, since I've followed the team, but I think
forever, dude.
Yeah, I think I do think I don't even think I'm this disrespectful because I know a lot of people get protective of that. But like, I do think the broadcast needs a refresh, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, you can keep Greg in there if you want to because he's still.
Yeah.
I think he's still with it.
Yeah.
What sucks is I'm not the biggest fan of Johnny Kane either, as a broadcaster.
I think. Well, I think he brings good energy.
Well, that's because you're listening to a guy who's on his deathbed in George Blaha, comparably.
Yeah.
So it's like you're listening to someone who belongs in the morgue compared to someone who's young and fresh and vibrant. But he reminds me so much of the Hornets play-by-play guy, just screaming in the third quarter over a three-pointer.
Don't you like that?
No, I hate that. I literally hate it. Really? Like I watched the Pat McAfee podcast. Al Michaels is on. He's like, my biggest pet peeve with announcers these days in sports is they go crazy over inconsequential plays in inconsequential quarters.
Yeah.
And the Hornets guy is the worst example. On the LaMelo Ball lob to Brandon Miller to go up 2-0, he screamed at the top of his lungs. Oh, what a lob! Oh, LaMelo! And I'm like, dude, it's 2-0, bro. That means nothing. Like,
I
stop.
like it. I'll be honest. I'll push back. I like the
Dude, that's
energy.
yeah. I think this is the first time we've vehemently
We
disagreed
can
with each other.
disagree.
I hate announcers who blow up over plays in the second quarter. I hate
Can
it.
I ask? Even I might not know the broadcast team because they might be college or football. Is there a broadcast that you like? Like just who's
Oh
good?
yeah, like Tarico and Collinsworth. And I know people are the biggest fans of or Jim Nantz and Tony Romo in football.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I like guys who are pros and know that I'm gonna get real jacked up when the moment requires it and
Yeah.
not get super jacked up over a 3-pointer to push the lead to 5 in the second quarter.
Yeah.
Like that's like so if I'm to believe that's special, then when something actually special happens, what degree do you have to go to make it feel special to me? Do you have to
Yeah.
do you have to take your shirt off and beat your chest in the broadcast booth? Like I just don't get it when you're the NBA has so many runs. Like, do not beat your chest and scream in my ear over a 3-pointer with 6 minutes to go in the second quarter. Like, I hate
Yeah.
that. It's my biggest pet peeve in broadcasting. I couldn't stand it less. It literally like I'd rather take George Blah for every basketball game I watch than a guy who screams in my ear in the first quarter.
That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
I find Eric Collins pretty funny, but I guess maybe if every game I had that, maybe I might be a bit different. Sean, please just tank again. If you can't beat Charlotte, just tank. Sean's coming around to you, coach.
Go, Sean. I'm not saying tank for the record. No, I just don't think this team's good enough to do it. I'm not saying tank. I'm not saying go back to where it's like you're obviously trying to lose because they're still obviously trying to win.
Yeah.
But to Sean's point, wouldn't be so bad.
And then Alan here says we can do a trade and be in this to win it. I think that's kind of what we were talking about earlier, how like there's just moves to be made with this roster no matter what.
Yeah, Brandon Ingram. That's the. I mean, I've scoured the league. I don't see another. All the other guys who can realistically be traded are worth too much. Like they don't have a package for them.
Yeah.
Like I think about Lauri Markkanen and how great Lauri Markkanen would be. The Jazz aren't giving up on Lauri Markkanen unless the deal is sweet.
Yeah.
And then you have so many teams in the league with so many more assets than the Pistons.
That's always where it comes back to.
Like the Thunder, they can get whoever they want. Maybe 2 people if they wanted to.
Yeah.
Like they just have so many more assets. The Nets are going to go the other way. They're just going to collect more.
But
And I read a report the other day that the Nets are ready to just ship everybody on their team out.
They've got currently 4 first rounders in this draft because of
Yeah,
all the
they could get more.
Yeah.
Like they could, dude. I see them trading Cam Johnson, Nick Claxton, and having just a treasure trove of draft picks, and then going absolutely bananas and rebuilding very quickly. That's the thing. We never had a Mikal Bridges. We just got stuck with Andre Drummond and the ghost of Blake Griffin. And that's not how you start a rebuild. And unfortunately, I know Kyle's brought it up. If we don't make moves soon, Cade's starting the rebuild for us.
It makes so much sense. It's just I feel like we always get to this point after a loss.
No, I'm just saying it. Like
no, I'm not saying everything makes sense. I'm just laughing because it's like we always get to this point I feel like it's around this time we've been going for an hour, and it's like it's gonna come to a point where we try Kate, and it makes sense. I'm just laughing because it's just funny.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be disgusted by it because like I love Cade to death, but
yeah,
man, oh man, like that's actually starting to rebuild with assets.
Yeah,
and obviously we wouldn't be good till I'm probably 35 years old at that point, but
that's the thing.
Yeah, it's like when are we ever gonna be good? But if we go, that's the thing. It's like I have so much PTSD from this team. If we go for it,
that's what's talking right now, and I'm feeling it as well.
If we go for it and it blows up in our face again, I can't stomach that.
Yeah, I know what you mean. There's almost like a comfortability in like I'm just going to use the phrase tanking because you don't have the expectations to win and you can't get hurt and like them just be a 6 seed and fall back down to the bottom. Like that, do you know what I'm saying? Like it's almost comfortable to be now for us as a fan base into this constant cycle of hoping for a draft pick because we're so scared to only get to like a first round, maybe one win, and then that's it. And then it's done. And we're back here again. It's
Yeah,
just like
exactly. It's way more scary to me.
yeah.
Like if this team turns into a 6 seed 2 years in a row, gets bounced first round, and then goes back to the toilet for another 10 years, I'll have to give it up.
Because we kind of did see that in a way. Like we were 8 seeds, and they were with slightly like different teams, but we've kind of experienced since the Pistons last playoff win, I think it was 2008, and I wasn't watching, but we've kind of experienced every scenario except like a winning team. Like, do you know what I mean? Like we've experienced the fun 8 seed young team in 2016, but that went nowhere. We've experienced the like put all your chips in Blake and Andre, 2 all-stars. Like, and we saw how that ended. That's got us to here. Like, we've seen the worst season of all time last year. Like, it's just I've seen anything but like
Seen several versions of the scrappy young team who people think can be good and they're not.
We've seen them go try and spend heaps of cap space, and you get Charlie V,
And
Ben Gordon. Like, it's every scenario I feel like is being explored to try and make this team good. And they're just, yeah. We're the only team that constantly falls to pick 5. Like, it's just crazy. But,
yeah, I mean, if you like, just imagine if Brandon Miller was on this team, or just imagine if,
yeah,
like, even just imagine, and not to talk too much crap about Asar, but imagine if Amen Thompson was on this team.
yeah.
Like, just like and then imagine if Victor Wembanyama was on this team. Like, if Wemby's on this team, we're probably right now 11-4, and we are like we're going to we're going to the ship. We got Cade, we got Ivy, and we got this freak Wemby, and we're going to the freaking ship. No, fifth pick couldn't be us. Who gets it? The Spurs, who had 3 bad years after a perennial dynasty where they were literally never bad.
Yeah.
Oh, Spurs.
Of course. Nah, it's crazy. I do think Alan has a point here. I'm going to wrap it up soon, guys. But the holes in this team are pretty clear. I think there's a few, and how they fix them, I don't know. But I think last year it was such a mess, and the year before maybe, that it was like you almost didn't kind of know where to turn. But I think that's one kind of positive from this season so far. And I think things are still definitely trending in the right direction. We've just gotten to the point now where we're just talking.
No. I agree with that. The holes are clear. You need a good big, consistent, good starting big, and you need a scoring 2-way wing.
Yeah,
this team's good instantly if you get those 2 things. Now, to your point, how do you get it?
Yeah.
How do you get both those spots filled?
$1 million question.
Yeah,
probably.
But
how
at
much
least
money's Tom Gore's got? The $1 billion question.
Yeah, at least like you're saying, like last year, I was like, can Cade and Ivy even play together?
Yeah.
Is Jalen Duren really this bad? What do we do with Stu? Is he a 4 or is he a 5? Like, what is Asar going to be? Like this, that, and the other. Like there were so many questions. What does this team look like with spacing? What does this team look like with vets? And now we've knocked out a bunch of those scenarios. And I think you're seeing, okay, this team's very respectable with decent vets.
Yeah.
This team, I think Cade and Ivy can play together. I think Stu's a 5.
Yep.
I think I think one of the missing questions is how does Azar fit? But I think you can find that out pretty easily this season with a team with vets and like other pieces where you can play with more lineups where he fits a lot better than, oh, we have no shooting. Let's put Azar out there, another non-shooter. Like all these questions have been answered. Asar's like one of the questions I still want to see answered. And then I think once you answer the Asar question, I think it just reinforces you need a legit rim protector at the 5.
Yeah.
Like legit, and that can play kind of both ways, like a lob. Like you're not the chance of you getting a stretch 5 who like honestly, I thought about this, Jack. I didn't bring it up yet. I thought about this a few times this season. I'm gonna bring it out right now. Miles Turner's a free agent this offseason.
Really?
Yeah, unrestricted.
He's like same age as Ingram. I think they're in the same draft. So he was like, or maybe the year after. So he's not that old. Yeah, that would be.
Miles Turner's pretty intriguing.
That answers a ton of questions.
You get Miles Turner in there. Let's say you got Miles Turner, and you got a average two-way wing, and that was the best you could do. Yeah. That team's cooking, man. That team's not bad. And I know everybody will say, well, Miles Turner has these games where he disappears, blah, 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 blah. Dude, the guy's a freak show on defense. He's so good on defense.
Against the Pistons.
And he can hit threes at a decent clip. Like, he's a decent three-point shooter. Like, teams actually defend him. You saw what he did at the Pistons. He hit like 7 in a row.
Yeah.
I've been thinking about that a lot. That's intriguing.
I didn't realize he's a free agent.
Oh, yeah. And who knows what's going to happen in Indiana because let's be honest, like Tyrese is not having the year anybody thought he was going to be. He's been actively pretty bad. Who knows if they're like, well, maybe last year was a flash in the pan. We have to go the other way now. So I thought about the name a lot, and I think if we can get a good old Miles maybe in the fold, that could do something.
No, that would be incredible. He's like you said, might have games where he disappears, but like you're not kind of just the idea of a stretch 5 that can protect the rim and shoot threes. Like he does that. Like just having that on the court, even if he's not hitting shots, is still huge.
Yeah, my Pistons offseason, we'll call it wet dream, so to speak, is Miles Turner and Cooper Flageres Bailey. If that somehow happened, I'm going streaking around LCA. I'm getting arrested in Detroit. If that happened, I would be so pumped. That's
insane. Appreciate you, Drake, by the way. Thank you.
Yeah, no. That's my WD off season.
I didn't even look at who's free agents, but like when you think about stretch 5s, like Miles Turner's like right up there. Who's a better like two-way stretch 5?
I mean, there's not many anymore. You would probably a couple of years ago you would have said Brook Lopez.
Yeah,
but he's kind of winding down.
I guess Wemby's a stretch. Wemby's like ridiculous, but
Wemby's an alien, so I'm not counting him.
Doesn't even
because Wemby can handle the ball. He can pass the ball. He can have games where he hits 8 threes. Like he's on a whole other planet. I'm trying to think of who else.
Luka Garza doesn't protect the rim. You got to protect the rim. That's I'd say. Like Vooch is a stretch 5, but like doesn't like defense.
I don't know if you like because Cat. You would say probably isn't even a center. He probably doesn't. He's not a good enough rim protector. People can go at Cat pretty easily. Joel Embiid.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
Nikola Jokic.
Yeah.
But then again, now you're talking about MVP level talent. So it's like, who could the Pistons realistically grab that's a really good stretch 5?
Miles Turner. And then, it'd be like Brook Lopez or Vooch. I think Vooch is a free agent this offseason. Not advocating for that. But
but Vooch can't play defense. He's not protecting the rim.
Yeah.
He'll definitely stretch. Yeah. He'll definitely stretch the court out, but he's not. He's not defending the rim like Miles Turner.
Nah.
I wouldn't mind Vooch though. I wouldn't hate Vooch.
Oh, actually, no, he's not a free agent. He re-signed. Sorry, I just remember because Chicago.
Yeah, because everybody was questioning why Chicago. did that.
Sorry. Yeah, he's not a free agent.
They were like, "Why did he do that?" I mean, we can take a quick look before we end this.
Yeah, I think he signed. Vooch signed for like 3 years, 30 or 45 million, something like that.
I'm looking at 2025 free agents potentially. I mean, you got Kyrie Irving, not going to come. LeBron James, obviously not going to come. Brandon Ingram, we've talked about him a million times. Julius Randle's got a play option that he probably, he might not opt into that, but I don't know.
What is it, like 28 mil?
Yeah, he's at 28 million. I don't know if he could get more than that in the open market.
Yeah.
Jimmy Butler, obviously too old. Miles Turner, just like I talked about. Yeah. Kuminga, but he's restricted. So what do you do with Kuminga? He's restricted. He's probably going to get a bag.
Yeah.
Giddey, Van Fleet.
Nah.
Naz Reid. Naz Reid's an interesting one.
He's
an interesting one because he's only making $13 million. I think that he's probably going to opt out of that.
Is he? He's a 4. Or is he a 5? I haven't watched enough of him.
He's 6'10". He's
Yeah.
not gonna give you elite rim protection, but he's gonna help you a lot on offense.
Yeah, he can score the ball. And shoot.
D'Angelo Russell, Gross, Caruso would be nice, but Chris Middleton is gonna opt in because he's making $32 million and never plays. Cam Thomas, he's definitely opting out of his player option, or he's restricted. Never mind. Bruce Brown, Santi Aldama.
He's like a sneaky, like not a starter. He's a guy like I could see them signing and just being like sneaky good, but off the bench.
John Collins is obviously going to opt back in. Wouldn't want him anyway. Karis LeVert. Karis LeVert's interesting.
Yeah.
Brook Lopez. And that's where it pretty much ends, I think.
Yeah.
I think what we learned is Miles Turner, Brandon Ingram.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't be opposed. Like, I don't know how he would work without Giannis next to him, but Lopez might be nice for a season.
He's just so old.
Yeah, he must be
like you can tell the way he's moving this year. He's not the same defensive threat that he was.
No, exactly.
I mean, Brook Lopez 3 years ago, I would have been like, sign me up all day. You can get a good 3-year run out of him, but he's starting to look a little creaky. And I mean, dude, he's a 7-footer who's been playing in the NBA forever.
Ages, yeah.
I mean, those bodies just wear down when you're that big and that tall and have that much weight. Still obviously a good player. Like, I just don't know how he fits, and I don't know how much you'd have to overpay to get him. I don't even know what he's worth anymore.
Yeah.
On the open market. I wouldn't hate it if it was a reasonable deal, but what are the chances Brook Lopez is spending his twilight years?
In Detroit.
The one I didn't think about and I wouldn't hate taking a look at is Kuminga.
Yeah, he's interesting. Is he still coming off the bench for the Warriors?
I don't know if he's starting or not.
Yeah, but like, I mean, you could put him at the 4 for sure.
It looks like based on his minutes, he's either starting and coming out pretty frequently, or he's a bench player.
Yeah,
but he's averaging. Let me look at his basketball reference here, quick. I haven't watched it. I've only watched a few Warriors games, and when I watched them, he wasn't amazing.
Yeah,
he's averaging 14 points on 14 points on roughly. I wish the basketball reference game logs were better on here to like look at. It's kind of hard to see. Like, I just want to see his shooting numbers. So he's shooting that's bad. He's shooting 32% from 3 and 40. He's 46% from the field overall.
Yeah.
And his true shooting is 50%.
Yeah, it's
not great. And I'd have to look up his defensive numbers. I said it, the only 2 games I saw from the Warriors so far, beginning to end, he looked average, but he's still so young.
Yeah.
That could be an interesting.
He's 2021 draft, wasn't he? He's pick 7, I think.
Yeah, so
he's still young.
He's young. I think he could be interesting. I don't know what the Warriors do after this year.
Yeah.
Especially if they don't win the title. Because their roster is getting old. But
weird spot.
He could be interesting. But yeah, no, I think to wrap it all up, put it all in perspective, I think the Pistons will be just fine this year. I just think they're going to be exactly where I thought they were.
Yeah.
Which isn't a bad thing.
It isn't a bad thing. I think we all just like, and it's still early. Like I'm still like, I think one positive is, I mean, if Cade's out, that might change, but every night they're playing, I'm looking forward to it. And for the most part, I'm in the games. Like, just as a fan, I am really enjoying it because the bar was very, very low. And I think like we went through it before. Did you say they're on track for like 30 wins, maybe one less, maybe one more?
29 to 30.
Yeah, which is like what I think a lot of us predicted. Which I think, considering they're on 14 games, it's still positive. It's just the way they're losing some of these is extremely painful.
Yeah, because I think what the worst thing would be for Pistons fans is if they're like 1 or 2 games out of the play-in and you go back to this stretch.
Yeah.
And you're just like, wow, there's 6 games in the first 16 they could have won.
Yeah, because the schedule now has actually softened up quite a bit. So
yeah, and I mean,
like in the past, 10 days?
December's going to be ugly.
Yeah, well, like we were saying the other day, at least it's only 8 games.
Exactly. Well, potentially with the play-in tournament though.
Yeah, true. You
Because
still want
that
them
is
to make
still
the play-in, the cup.
Yeah, the cup.
Yeah.
That is something I'm still actively rooting for them to make 200,000%.
Yeah, same. Absolutely.
Make the cup.
Yeah.
Beat the Bucks, beat the Pacers, go undefeated in the group, and make the cup.
Absolutely. Well, hopefully, I'm glad. Well, you said Amari's tweeted out Cade seemed in good spirits and that kind of thing. So hopefully, I feel like he still might miss the Magic game, and then hopefully he's back. Hopefully he's back ASAP. But yeah,
A little Cade spell with an Assard season debut on Monday.
love that.
Could be sneaky fun.
I would love that. I'm going to be very keeping an eye on that injury report, see what his status is. Because if that moves to, because it goes for doubtful, then goes to game time.
I think
Decision?
questionable.
Ah, damn. We still got 2 steps. We're getting there. All right, man. I think we've covered everything. We've done some off-season chatter. It's been awesome as always. Tell the people that can find you. What you got going on?
No flies on 906. I wasn't as active tonight because I like that third quarter took everything out of me. And I told myself I would be actively positive on Twitter. And I had nothing good to say in that third quarter. Not a single thing.
Yeah.
So I didn't tweet it, but I'm always live tweeting the games. Always coming up here to shoot the breeze with Jack. And we had a unique guest tonight. Let's go, Zarik. That was dope. We need more unique guests. You guys got to be tired of me talking by now. You have to. You have to be over me coming up here and spouting off after every game. And I'm sure there's stuff you don't agree with me on. So come up here and let the people know, hey, I think Cody's an idiot for this point. And I wanted everyone to know that I think he's an idiot for that. I welcome it. Jack needs fresh blood.
I appreciate you, my man. Well, you enjoy the rest of your night. It must be close to midnight for you now.
11 o'clock, and I'm going straight to bed after this.
All right, man. Well, you have a good rest, and I'm sure you'll be back soon.
Yeah. Hopefully the Magic game doesn't go too far south, or I might have to skip that one.
All right, man. We'll talk soon.
All right. Catch you later, man.
Catch ya. Bye.
All right. Bye.
All right, guys. Nearly hit the 2-hour mark. I think we've honestly gone through most of the questions and comments as we've gone through here. So thank you, everyone, for tuning in as always. I'm just doing last check here. Sean says no Kuminga. No, that's fair. I'm not sure about Kuminga either. I get why people are talking about him, but yeah, I would be a bit concerned he might come here and yeah, I see what you mean about the mentality and just would he fit? Like, would he come here and now think he's like the number one guy or something like that? I know it sounds crazy, but and what it would take to get him is the other thing that would be a bit concerning. But in terms of the idea of Kuminga, the position he plays, the athleticism, the size, I can see definitely why like Cody brought him up, and plenty of other Pistons fans have spoken about him in the past. So thank you, Sean. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. We'll be back Sunday for the Magic game, or Saturday for me, or I'm confused now. But if you want to come and join me for that show, I currently don't have any guests for that one. So if you want to open the show, or you want to come on at any point, please send me a DM because I'd love to get more of you up here. And then I do have, after the Toronto game, which I think is on Monday, I've got Bryce Simon joining me from the Pistons Pulse. So that'll be really fun to open the show. But as always, please DM me. Let me know if you want to join. The show goes for as long as you guys want it to. So thank you again for today. Hopefully we get some better hoops in a couple of days. And as always, go Pistons.